Yo, what is cracking, everyone? This is your man, Politikdaking, and this is going to be a video on the new Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, guys. I sort of had to do this video. I know there's plenty of other videos that I need to get done and edited. You guys probably don't know anything about, but so I apologize. There hasn't been more gaming videos on, but I went and saw Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker on Thursday night, and I had a pretty good time. I went by myself. I usually take my nephew, or I would take other people, and I had a pretty decent time. I got popcorn. I talked to the guys at the counter for a little bit. They had like all this Star Wars memorabilia and everything, and I was like, guys, I don't know if I want to buy this because I don't even know if I'm gonna like this movie. And if you guys know me, I mean, you can just look in the back there. I got Star Wars. Let me see here. I got Star Wars Potato Head Man, and I have a list of Star Wars things right here, starting from Luke Skywalker, and then that was from like the new movies. I think it was Solo, and then we have that one guy. I forgot his name. Darth Vader's right there. We got Mace Windu and etc. And I have some more up here and stuff like that. Lando Calrissian. So I'm a very big Star Wars fan, guys. I really like Star Wars. I've liked it ever since I was young. I watched the pre-sequels. I like the original trilogy, and this video is going to be about what was right and wrong about the Rise of Skywalker. This will essentially be a review, but it's also going to be my personal feelings and my opinions on the franchise and everything that's happened with the franchise, guys. So if you are new, please like, comment, and subscribe if you're not new. What's cracking, Kings? So there will be spoilers in this, just to let you know. So if you do not want to watch or you do not want to know about any of the spoilers, then please go away right now. So anyway, the first point that I want to make, and I have about 5 points that I'm going to make, and the first point is going to be that Disney does not care about Star Wars. That's the first point that I want to make in this video. And I'm going to just prop my phone up so it can just be a little easier for me to go through these things here. Boom. So Disney doesn't care about Star Wars, guys. Ever since The Force Awakens, I watched the Force Awakens, and the direction that they were going in with, I guess, Rey and her being an outcast and her learning her abilities, and Finn being a black character who was a stormtrooper who had a conscience, and then I guess this Poe character who was a rebel starfighter and everything else like that. Honestly, just from the beginning of that movie, they introduced those characters way too soon, and they made you feel like you liked them way too soon. We don't know what these characters are about, and you can't just make people like characters that they know nothing about. It's cool to have a little bit of mystery and things of that nature, but it felt like they pushed the newer characters on people too soon. And honestly, and then with the older characters that were in the movie, like Han Solo, he was in the first movie, they sort of pushed. Han Solo was great, and it was great seeing Han Solo for Star Wars fans. And the thing is that they, of course, they killed him in the Force Awakens, but a lot of that was just way too soon, and the way they went about it was just not good. Like they could have had some backstory with Kylo and maybe some flashbacks of him and his dad having conversations and et cetera, et cetera. And then the lead up to him killing his father because he wanted to be on the dark side. Same thing with Rey. We could have met Rey and entered her space and sort of learned more about her, but it's just like they sort of just brought her in, and she's the lead character now. With Finn, him being a stormtrooper, you don't really need a lot of backstory or anything, but they could have introduced these characters a lot better and then developed them over the course of 3 films. And they just didn't do that well. And through the course of the trilogy, they used the older characters to sort of force your liking to the new characters, but it didn't work well. And to be honest, no one cares about Rey, Finn, or Poe. And I don't mean to to say that to disrespect the actors. I think the actors, for the most part, did a decent job with what they were given. But nobody cares about these characters, I've been reading a lot of articles and I've been doing a lot of research about how Star Wars is a male fan base, has a male fan base. And I think that's true in certain instances, and in certain instances, it does have women fan bases. Like Leia, was a character that I've seen many women dress up for on Halloween and Comic Con and things of that nature. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think um, it's good to have women leads and things about that. But just forcing a woman, main character because you want that, because you want to fix things in the world and you want to fix things in America is not cool. Or throwing a black guy in there because you want to fix slavery, or I think the Poe guy is Spanish or something else like that. Just throwing him in there just so there can be diversity, it doesn't really just make sense. Like if you're going to introduce a character, you just have to introduce a character. And yes, and this is Star Wars too. This is in America, so you don't have to fix anything in the Star Wars universe as far as discrimination or women's rights and different things like that. And I felt like they sort of pushed that in the films and tried to make people agree with it because of Star Wars, and that's just not what you do with storytelling. Anyway, I want to sort of stick to points. The characters we cared about was Han, Leia, Luke. Those characters. Lando. We care about those characters, and over a course of a trilogy, if you just bring those in and have them sort of lead, and then you could sort of pass the torch to the new guys, that would have been better. You have Luke being the mentoring Rey to the battle, with Palpatine, or if you had Leia and Luke working together and having that family dynamic and them being reunited and then passing the torch to Rey would have been great over the course of 3 films. But they didn't do that. They just didn't do that. They didn't really do that. They just, sort of say, hey, this is Rey now, and just accept it, and that's what it is. And we're gonna make Luke and Leia just like them automatically. You barely know these people. You're not gonna just like them. They could have did that better over the course of 3 movies. And the storyline that they brought out, it didn't seem like they really cared about that either. And when I look at J.J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy, who was the producer of this film, like when you look at it and when you think about it, you're saying to yourself, okay, these are talented producers, these are talented movie makers, directors, etc. They could have done better. They could have done more research, but it seems like they just sort of rushed it. Honestly, if they would have waited until now to come out with episode 7 and really had gotten it right, I would have appreciated that more than them just rushing a movie out because they have the Star Wars franchise right now. And anyway, now that you've probably seen the Rise of the Skywalker and everything else like that, they've killed off all the main characters, guys. Leia's dead, Han Solo's dead, Luke Skywalker's dead, everyone's dead. Okay, Palpatine's dead. Everybody's dead, guys. And these characters have to stand on their own, and a lot of people don't even like the characters that they made. And since they didn't introduce them well, they really don't have any roots. They really don't have any depth. You don't really care. Like I could care less about Finn. I could care less about Rey, and I can care less about Poe. If any of the new characters I like, I probably care more about like BB-8 and the little guy that was funny. Maybe the guy with the orange hair. He was pretty funny. Kylo Ren. I actually like Kylo Ren over the course of these 3 movies. But they killed him. So, yeah. So, these characters have to stand on their own. And honestly, I don't think most people really like the characters or invested into them like they were invested in the old trilogy. And if they would have did a better job of processing all of that and bringing that together where Luke could have been a mentor and then maybe died at the beginning of this movie, it would have made more of an impact. Or same thing with Leia or Han Solo, having a dialogue back and forth with his son and fighting against his son, trying to convince him not to be a part of the dark side anymore. Having Leia and Han having that relationship, and them trying to convince their son not to come back to the dark side. It really would have been great over the course of 3 movies. They just executed it wrong. And for me, I feel like Disney did not care about that as far as old fans. And Disney just doesn't care. They have their own agenda. They want to make money. They have toys and stuff like that, and they're just gonna ride this franchise into the ground until they get all that they want out of it. So that's my first part. My first point is that Disney doesn't care about this franchise, and it really made it feel like Disney didn't care. The Rise of the Skywalker definitely was a better movie. It was a better watchable. I actually enjoyed watching it. I'll probably go and see it again. But the other 2 movies made this feel like this was a makeup for all of that. And after you've totally disrespected the characters, the legacies, the storylines, and then to come back and try to rectify it, and then not even really rectify it, it's totally disrespectful to Star Wars fans, and I'm just going to say that straight up. So that's my rant on that. So now we're going to get into the actual movie. And so I went and saw the movie, guys. I saw it Thursday night. It was pretty good. Weren't a lot of people in the theater. There were some people that dressed up and et cetera, et cetera. And you know what? Honestly, I would tell you guys, the people that were in the theater, they were probably older than me. I'm 33. They were probably in their 40s, 50s, and they were dressed up as Star Wars fans. And see, that's the point. When you look at the fan base of Star Wars, I mean, this came out in the 80s, I think. And, like I'm 33, I was born in the 80s, so I got like the tail end, the pre-sequels, whatever. But I was able to go back and rewatch Star Wars and rewatch the trilogy and really get into it. So people that are true fans are probably in their 40s or 50s. And, they're probably going to hate it, not seeing that their older characters were treated with respect. So anyway, so I went into the movie. There weren't a lot of people in there. I will tell you that this movie was worth seeing. I really enjoyed it for the most part. If I was going to give it a rating, I would give it maybe a 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. And that's a lot better than the 0 out of 10s I gave the other 2 movies. So it was really a good watch. It made sense. There's certain things you're not going to agree with, but did it make sense this time? Did they do anything frivolous? When Leia died, did Chewbacca not, react? No, he reacted. When Han Solo died, Chewbacca didn't even react. Leia hugged Rey. I mean, there's just really disrespectful stuff when it comes to the franchise that they did. So watching this movie, it made sense. Kylo Ren is on a mission to find Palpatine. And, he's enraged, and he wants to be the only one. And he wants to make Rey his apprentice and everything else like that. Like, all that made sense. And then Rey chilling with Leia, getting some training in and learning and stuff like that. That was sort of good that they added that aspect in. As far as Finn and Poe were being Finn and Poe. Lando coming in, being able to help them and stuff. So it was really good. Like, it made sense. Palpatine being back from the dead. I always assumed that Palpatine was still alive because even though he got thrown down a pit and he did like explode and stuff. Palpatine was really strong, guys, and we all know that. So he could have survived. He could have had these, these people help him, and all of that. So, and then the Star Destroyers and everything else like that. There's some things that don't make sense about that as well. But at the same time, it was really good. So it was a really good watch. I did like watching it. And it you can tell that they treated the franchise with more respect this time, and that they actually wrote a better story than just improvising crap in the movies or trying to put an agenda. The plot was a lot better. The back and forth with Rey was good. I really enjoyed that. And honestly, this movie can stand on its own versus the other 2 movies that just totally sometimes just don't make sense. And but at the same time, guys, this movie was very disrespectful, man. It was very disrespectful to the older characters, and that's really what I'm gonna get into. So my next point is the disrespect of the older characters. So anyway, so they brought Palpatine back, and Palpatine, he drains the life force from Rey and from Kylo when they were battling, and he's pretty much full powered Emperor, and he shoots this lightning in the sky because the rebels are trying to fight against these star destroyers that have, what is it? They have Death Star capabilities on each the star destroyer. So I was like, okay, that's cool. I mean, that's pretty thing. And he did like destroys all these ships, and he's like all powerful, but yet Rey is able to kill him just with two lightsabers together, and push back his force lightning. And the other thing I think about with Palpatine is just like if you're using force lightning, right, and you're trying to kill somebody, right, you're full powered. You should have a lightsaber, right? He had a lightsaber before with Mace Windu. So why not just turn off your electricity and fight with a lightsaber? That was one of the big things that I saw, and they made it too easy for Rey to kill Palpatine. Way too easy. I don't understand why they would do that or whatever. I mean, Rey was a Palpatine, and I understand that, but Palpatine was still Palpatine, and he's a fully trained Sith Lord, so he's not going to just go down easily after destroying all these rebel ships and things of that nature. So they treated Palpatine with disrespect. They treated the Emperor with disrespect in that regard. What else? um, Luke Skywalker, he came back from the dead. I think they treated him pretty well as far as him coming back and speaking and everything to Rey about some things and about the weapon and all that other stuff. But it still feel like he died too quickly and he went out too soon. Towards the end of the movie, of course, you've had to see it if at this point. Leia and Luke sort of give Rey their approval to be a Skywalker, and that's a hell to the no. Hell no. Rey is never going to be a Skywalker. Kylo Ren was a Skywalker. He was from that bloodline. If anything, he should have carried the mantle. And so they treated Luke and Leia with disrespect. I didn't like that at all. Leia reaching back out to her son was cool. Trying to get him to turn away from the dark side, that was cool. I think that made sense. Han Solo comes back to talk to his son. I think that was a really good moment, even though he's not a Force ghost per se. It was just like a memory in his head. These things were just messing with him and, brought him back. So I thought that was really cool. Lando had a pretty cool entrance, and him doing his thing. And then Lando, bringing the fleet and stuff that made sense. It made sense. I think Lando probably got the best exit out of all of these guys because, he didn't really die. He just went in there and he fought and he was his Lando and he was with Chewbacca. And I really like how they paid homage to Lando Calrissian in that way. So that was really cool. So yeah, I mean, but over the course of the trilogy, man, they really treated these characters like they were throwaway. They were treated these characters like they were obligations. And honestly, they should have just not included any of the old characters. If you just don't have respect for the older characters and who they are, and you're treating them as these things that you have to get rid of in order to move on with your franchise, just don't include them at all. Just sort of allude to them and allude to the stories, and maybe bring them in here and there or whatever, or put them in some flashbacks. But if you weren't going to respect the characters, don't even include them in your movies, guys. Unfortunately, they did that and they did it wrong. So, it seems like, and honestly, I'll just tell you straight up, it's like Disney only used the older characters to try to get you to like the newer characters, but they didn't build up the newer characters enough with the older characters for us to like them. And, they could have did that a lot better. Just like I said, over the course of a trilogy, maybe if you had Lando with Finn, being the two only black guys in the universe, or maybe if you had Poe with Han Solo teaching him the ropes about being a fighter and being like a rogue type of guy, and maybe if you had Rey and Leia nurturing, Luke and Leia nurturing Rey to be a Jedi, and if you had Han Solo and Leia like trying to convince their son over the course of 3 movies, that would have been great. Because then by the time we got to this movie, we're like, dang, oh, we need to know what Finn's going to be doing now. We need to know what Rey's going to be doing. And Poe, he got his Han Solo training. They didn't do that, man. And if they would have did that, I would have really enjoyed the trilogy, but they didn't do that. So, anyway, the big reveal was Rey being a Palpatine, which I don't even think was really a big reveal. I think that once you saw the Force lightning come out of her fingers, you sort of knew that she was a Palpatine or she had some connection to the Sith. And that connection being cool, it still doesn't justify her being powerful and her not training in the Force. And then it's just like, why would you like Rey? Anyway, she's a woman. She looks all good. She's strong. But, one thing I will say is that, and this is one thing, this is just like a side rant. If you're going to have a woman character, make her believable, okay? Make her believable. If you're a feminist, that's cool. Not everybody's going to like feminists, though. And you have to paint that in a real world picture, right? Or if you're gay, hey, you're gay, you're standing up for your gay thing. Not everybody's going to like gay people and not agree with gay people, but if you can paint it in a real sense, it's still relatable. Or you could be a straight male, egoist type of guy and a womanizer. Not everybody's going to like that, but if you paint it in a real picture, it's still relatable. So the thing is that, you have to paint these things in a real sense. And, with Rey's character, in women characters in general, like one movie I really enjoyed was Wonder Woman. And the reason why I like Wonder Woman, because Wonder Woman was strong. She was, she was a fighter, but she was still a woman and she still cared and loved about people. She still had somebody that she loved in her life that was a guy. And, and she still cared about men. It wasn't like this opposition thing. Like they painted her to be a real woman with real feelings and that really cared about people, even though she grew up in an all-woman society. I thought that was really cool and really interesting. And they could have did that with Rey. They didn't have to follow the Wonder Woman thing exactly. But, it's just like, make her a real character, man. Like, don't just put a woman in there just to put a woman in there. Like, build her up. Give her some depth. If she hates men, put a reason why she hates men. Maybe she was abused or hurt or maybe somebody broke her heart or whatever. But paint it in a real sense because, regardless of what people say, men and women don't hate each other. I'm not a man that just doesn't want women to succeed. I have family and cousins and stepdaughters and everything, and I want to see them succeed 100%. I also want them to be able to respect men and for men to respect them. But they have to be respectable as well and teach them up. So there's no difference between male and female, even though there are these things in society. But just paint them in a real picture. I think that would have been just so much better for Rey's character. And, Finn and Poe, they're really replaceable characters. They're not memorable. I don't really care about Finn. I don't really care about Poe. They could have been anybody, and I just wouldn't have cared. So, anyway, moving on. Rey being a Skywalker was completely trash. It was trash, guys. Them trying to give the Skywalkers giving the seal of approval, you're not going to win your male fan base by doing that. Or you're not going to win genuine fans by doing that, okay? You're not, okay? Just because you did it in a movie doesn't mean that all is well and that people are just going to accept Rey as the next Skywalker. It's totally crap. They would have had a better storyline. They would have let Rey die and let Kylo live. You know why? Because Kylo has a story. Kylo was an evil dark side user, conflicted or whatever. He overcame the dark side. He came back to the light or whatever. He could have helped Rey. Rey could have been the sacrifice or whatever, and boom. You know what I'm saying? Like he could have fulfilled Vader's legacy by bringing balance to the Force. You know, that would have been cool. Let Rey go out as a hero. Let Kylo live. But you know what? Disney's politics aren't going to let them do that. Disney's politics wanted a woman lead character, and that was it. So even if for the sake of the story, they could have let Kylo live and be the last Skywalker. Oh my gosh. You know, it just... Kylo's story would have been a lot better. And seeing him come to the light side of the Force and seeing him train maybe his own order or a new order or just being rogue or whatever would have been great. It would have been so good. But now this Rey storyline, they don't know what to do with Rey. They don't know what to do with Rey. I bet you. They make a movie and it's called Rey. I'm not going to see it. Nobody is going to see it, okay? No one wants to see that movie. I'm done with that. Overall, the movie was good. I'll say that. But they disrespected the franchise, man. There's so much disrespect that it's crazy. It was an enjoyable movie, but they disrespected so much, you know. So anyway, so let's talk about some of the good things that happened in the movie. You know, I had to get through that first, but the movie was fast paced. The entry crawl was also disrespectful. Very short, very straight to the point. They didn't respect. There's no respect in the former franchise. There's no respect for it. They threw Leia in there training, Rey. And then there was that cutscene where Luke was training Leia. And it's like Leia was better than Luke. And that's fine. You know, if Leia was able to stand on her own against Luke. I mean, they are brother and sister. But it justified Rey's power a little bit. Maybe she had a little bit more control and some incredible natural talent. But it doesn't justify it totally over the trilogies. It just really doesn't. So that was cool. The characters seem more determined, and they seem more focused on what they needed to get done, which made for a better story because, you know, they're not trying to portray all of this political crap that they've been trying to portray, whether it's animal rights or rich against poor or feminism or any of that type of stuff. It seems like the characters were a lot more focused, and that made for me to be into the movie a lot quicker. Kylo's story, I think, in this whole franchise was probably the best story of all. And that's what I want to say because, you know, the whole thing is you have Force Awakens, you have The Last Jedi, and you have The Rise of the Skywalker, right? And the thing is that this is really Kylo Ren's story. In The Force Awakens, I didn't really like Kylo Ren at all because I thought he was too whiny and he wasn't Darth Vader enough. And come on, guys, you know, I'm a Darth Vader fan, as you see, or whatever, you know. I am a Darth Vader guy. This is my little change bucket that I keep my change in. Darth Vader is my dude. So having a guy that is a descendant from Darth Vader and not really being dark enough was really like, I don't like this guy or whatever. I think he looks lame. And but over the course of the trilogy, Kylo Ren developed. I really like Kylo Ren's character now, and I think he climaxed in The Rise of the Skywalker. Kylo's story was beautiful, man. I mean, if you really look at it, they could have did this a lot better, but you have a conflicted kid. You have a conflicted kid that, has this legacy of being a dark side user. He was in the light first, but then become a dark side user, then trying to mimic his grandfather. And he has identity issues. You know, he's like, man, what should I be? You know? And, you know, he probably loves his father and mother, but he's gone to the dark side. And, so him relying on it, him killing his father, him feeling like he can't go back home and his mother doesn't love him or his mother won't forgive him for what he's done. And, you know, reaching back his father, you know, reaching back out in this movie saying like, I love you. Hey, you just need to turn away and I forgive you. It was sort of like the biblical story of the prodigal son. That's what it really made me think about how the prodigal son returned home and how they embraced him, and that was really good. That was really good. I really like that about Kylo. I really like Kylo being a Dark Force user in this movie and being a Sith and everything else like that. I think he really enforced his power a lot more and was more determined on being a dark side user. But and the battle scenes were good between him and Rey, and it was just ultimately good. I liked his mask with the red things. I think that was dope. Um, Really good, really good. And again, they should have just let him live and let him continue on the franchise. But again, politics, man, and that's what has ruined franchise overall. So that was really good. I really like Kylo's story. I can go back and watch Kylo's story and just it really just takes Ray out the picture and make this story more about Kylo and his redemption, which I think that's really beautiful. So anyway, Palpatine's lightning was really cool when he took the healing ability off of Kylo and Ray, and he did the lightning. That was really cool. I mean, I was up in my seat like, oh snap! Like Palpatine's getting it in, because you want to see those big displays of power, because you hear about them in the comics and everything else like that, and you want to see those type of things happen. So that was really cool. The destroyers were laser beams, with the what is it, the Death Star laser beams. I think that was cool. Um, Again, they didn't let it come to fruition, but just imagine a destroyer just comes in there. They sort of bully a planet, and then they're like, "Yo, if you don't get in line, you're gonna die." So I think that would have been a cool aspect to sort of explore, and they should have made this movie a little bit longer so that would have happened a little bit, and they could have still had everything, the way that it happened. But I thought that was cool. Let me see here. Chewbacca's reaction to Leia's death. Finally, they got that right. Han Solo. They didn't really give him a reaction, and they hugged Rey. They talked about already, but so they fixed that. Lando being in there, I think Lando had one of the best farewells to the franchise, because he helped them bring the rebels, and he helped them along their journey, and they let him sort of go in and out. I think that was really cool. The little guy that fixed C-3PO was pretty funny. I really liked him, and I thought he was really, really good. And him being in the ship was really funny towards the end. So those were the good things I liked about, the movies, and I think that was the good aspects of it, even though it still had a lot of bad in it. Kylo Ren's story, look, if they were going to make 3 movies, Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and then The Rise of the Skywalker, they should have just made it about Kylo. They could have made it more Kylo focused and let him be the lead character, and then sort of lead into Rey redeeming everything. But they didn't do that, and awkwardly, it ended up becoming more about Kylo than it did about Rey. Nobody cares about Rey. So anyway, guys, so those were the disrespectful things and the good things about the movie. I'm going to talk about Disney's agenda moving forward. So you may agree or disagree with me on this. I'm not asking for you to agree. I'm just asking for you to listen, do the research yourself. So Disney as a company is super liberal company. Okay, they're liberal. They're more democratic and everything else like that. So they pushed a lot of their beliefs into the movie. So I mean, in the second movie, they talked about, or the first movie was like the feminism thing with the Rey lead character, and having a black guy in there and having a Spanish guy in there as lead characters to have the diversity and stuff. Nothing wrong with that, but you got to still do it right, and develop the characters and everything else like that. So there's nothing wrong with having diversity, but there is something wrong when you don't develop the characters in the right way, and if you're trying to fix things that America has done wrong, which America has treated blacks bad, they've treated women bad, and it's been a male-dominated society, white male-dominated society, or whatever. Which there's good and bad things about that as well. There's nothing wrong with white men per se, but there's been some wrong things that happen, right? But you don't put that into Star Wars, man. Like Star Wars is its own thing. Like you don't have to fix the things in America in Star Wars. At the end of the movie, they had this lesbian kissing scene. I don't agree with it. obviously, I am a believer. I'm a follower of Christ. I believe in the Bible. Not everyone believes, though. And look, in reality, this is one thing I want to say. So there are lesbians in the world, okay? There's nothing, there. Well, I do feel like there's something wrong with lesbians. I feel like it's sin, and I feel like it goes against God. But when I watch movies and they push certain things that I don't agree with on me, I tend not to watch them anymore, and that's just the absolute truth. But when you have movies that are just talking about society, like there are gay people in society, there are lesbians in society, you can't, click your heels 2 times and make gay people or lesbian people go away. Like it's a true thing in society. And when people are displaying truth, I find that interesting. And, but, again, if there's like a whole, let's say they make a whole trilogy of Star Wars and it's just lesbians, I'm not going to watch that because I don't agree with, gay, relationships and stuff like that. It's just my faith and that's what I believe. But, if they have it in a movie and it's just part of like there's a character that just happens to be gay, well, I have coworkers that probably happen to be gay, or I have friends that might happen to be gay, and they know my stance and everything. But I'm not going to sit there and hound them. If they made that decision to be that's on them. You know how I feel about it, and that's about it. So they added that at the end, and for people that are more conservative and more, have values of the family and a male and a woman being together, that's going to disturb people. And I think that moving into the future, they're going to add more and more and more of that. It's going to be feminism. It's going to be the gay thing. It's going to be the lesbian thing. And again, depending on how they do it, it will be dependent on if I watch any of the future Star Wars stuff. Not because, this is Star Wars too, guys. You have aliens. You have aliens everywhere. Everybody's an alien. And the thing is that you're going to have different species that might procreate differently and different things like that. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think if you're looking into a fictitious alien, Star Wars, the galaxy, et cetera, et cetera. But in reality, back in reality, certain people are going to agree with it and not, and certain people aren't going to want their kids to watch those certain things. So I did see that at the end, and it did make me cringe a little bit because of my faith and my beliefs. But again, just throwing it in there just to throw it in there instead of, developing it or making it like a thing. Again, Disney's trying to push their agenda on how they feel about the world into Star Wars. So people that are more traditional aren't going to like that. I didn't really like it at all. I disagree with it. But, if it's just there's this universe and there are people in it and they're going to be gay people in it, that's absolutely fine because that's the world in reality itself. Moving on, I want to talk about Kathleen Kennedy and all of that because, Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams, they wanted a woman character. And I think that they were more concerned about having, for one, having control and then saying, well, we have a woman character and we're just going to have a woman character for the sake of having a woman character because that's what we want and that's what we feel like the world should see. And that's it. And there's nothing wrong with having a woman character, but you still have to develop them in the storyline. And you can make a strong woman character and still incorporate Luke mentoring her or Luke and Leia mentoring her and them having, these differences and different things like that. But they just didn't do that well. I feel like they just sort of threw Rey in there and they said, well, Rey's just going to fend for herself and people are just going to like her. And that's just not the case. A lot of people don't like Rey. A lot of people don't like Star Wars now. And I think they have to deal with that. And the way they respond to people is going to be a thing because, at the end of the day, you have to be real. So, and I think that you have to be fair. You have to portray, like, for instance, like me, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. So, no, I'm not going to agree with gay and lesbian relations, right? Or sinful things in a sense. So you have to have that aspect in there too, and not just have, well, it's okay to be gay and it's okay to be lesbian, whoop. Because people have different opinions, and in a big universe, not everybody's going to join together. Like, there's going to be certain people that either like it or don't like it, and your opinion and how you portray that is going to be big. Um, so, and it's the same thing with Finn and Poe and, other characters and stuff like that. The lesbian at the end, if you just throw a black guy in there just to try to fix something that happened in America, or if you just throw a Spanish guy in there just to fix something that happened with America, or you just try to throw a lesbian in there to make, gay and lesbian things more acceptable, it's not going to make it more acceptable at the end. At the end of the day, you're going to have people that have differences and that disagree or agree with how you feel. And, if you're going to throw that into a movie, you should throw all different aspects. It's not going to just be this fantasy land where people are just going to say, hey, oh, there's gay people in here. Oh, great. There's going to be some people that say, well, you know what? I don't agree with that. I feel like it's wrong, but that's on you. And there are other people are going to say, well, I just hate gays and lesbians and whoop whoop. There are going to be some people that say, well, I just support them 100%. That's their life and whoop whoop. So I think that if you have it in a more real sense of how society works, it's more relatable. But when you just have it on one side to say, this is how I feel and this is right and you got to accept it, people aren't going to respect that at the end of the day. So, and honestly, it brings more depth to storytelling and the universe if you have the different angles of why people believe and don't believe and et cetera, and how people can work together. I would love to see a movie that has a gay character and a straight character and a religious character and some other type of character that are able to look past a lot of these things and still respect each other and work together and agree with each other. Because at the end of the day, in society, we all do that. I don't go to work and tell every lesbian or gay person that they're in sin and that they're going to go to hell or whatever else it is like that, and every gay person doesn't come to me and say, oh, I hate you because you're a Christian and you don't agree with what I'm doing. Like, that's not how society works. Like, we get to know each other. We learn about each other. Some things we stay quiet on. Some things we talk about. And we agree to disagree on certain things. Sometimes relationships are broken. Sometimes relationships are fortified because of our differences. So I think that you have to have open conversation with stuff like that. And I don't think that's a conversation that Disney's willing to have. With Star Wars, they're just going to more push their agenda on what they feel is right. So I know that sort of got deep, but I just wanted to portray that as well because I think that's something that Star Wars fans are thinking about as well, especially when you have Christian Star Wars fans or Muslim Star Wars fans or any other type of Star Wars fans. We're all different, and it's good. Like, Marvel talks about diversity, and I think Star Wars, in a sense, talks about diversity with all the different alien creatures and stuff like that, but painted in a real sense. Everybody's not going to agree with what you put out there. They're not. So anyway, this is my conclusion, guys. I know this has gone long, but look, this is a good time to buy some Star Wars toys, okay? I bought some Star Wars toys from McDonald's. They have like the little, I think, things for the tree and stuff. They have Emperor Palpatine, Darth Maul, and Darth Vader all in a set. If you get a Happy Meal, I bought that. What else did I buy? I think that's it. I bought the Chewbacca toy and the Han Solo toy and the BB-8 toy from the McDonald's. You can just go into McDonald's and say, hey, I want to buy some toys, and you have to sort of push them to look through and get you the toy that you want. But I think it's a good time to buy the toys and stuff. I bought the Kylo Ren with the broken mask from the Happy Meal and stuff. So get some toys. They always bring back the older toys when the new movies comes out. So even if you're not a fan of the new trilogy, hey, get some of those toys and build up your collection like I've been building up my collection. I'm definitely going to give me a Kylo Ren with a broken mask. I respect the fact that they did better in this movie than they did other movies, but they still did the other movies wrong. And but I respect the fact that they tried to bring it to a conclusion. I don't respect the fact that they still tried to force characters on us that we don't like and don't have any connection to and don't have any depth. So that's what that is. What it is. I don't like the fact that they killed everyone off. What these trilogies should have been is like Saw, or what this trilogy should have been is like Final Destination, because all they wanted to do was kill off all the Skywalker line, all the Palpatine line, anything that had connected to the old franchise, and bring Rey, Finn, and Poe in. And they did a horrible job transitioning any of that, because you know what? You can't just throw away the old characters. You can't just throw them away permanently. Like, that's the foundation, and you have to respect the foundation of Star Wars if you're going to try to bring it in. I'm not watching no more Star Wars crap. I might barely watch The Mandalorian, okay, because people have been telling me about it. But I'm not watching no more Star Wars stuff, man. I'm sticking to the old. I'm sticking to the past. Whatever. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, because they did no character development, and all the new characters suck. Sorry. And one of the other points I made is that this is not your daddy's Star Wars, okay, anymore. This is not George Lucas Star Wars. This is Disney Star Wars, and you're gonna have to deal with that. So if you're willing to accept all the politics and the feminism and the everything else, well, then you can keep going with Star Wars. And eventually, this is gonna happen to Marvel too. Marvel's gonna be transformed like this, and they're gonna bring in the gay characters and the this and the that and the social acceptance stuff like that. And, at that point, I won't watch those either. Just because of my personal beliefs, nothing to have to do with the franchise. If they do it right, I won't really care. But, yeah, I'm probably going to be done with just Disney in general. And, the only person we can blame for all of this is George Lucas. It's George Lucas's fault. Okay, he could have kept the franchise. He could have looked for funding elsewhere. He could have signed a contract where he still has creative control. He chose to sell this, and he's frustrated about it. I'm frustrated too, but at the end of the day, it's a business deal, and Disney's going to do what Disney's going to do. So, look, if they had more respect for George Lucas and Star Wars and the foundation that they had, there would have been better movies. But since they had no respect for Star Wars and what George Lucas did and the fans, they made horrible movies. And that's just the reality of Star Wars, guys. This might be the last video I ever do on Star Wars ever. But this is the truth. Disney has taken over. They've killed everything that you've loved. They didn't even do it in a respectable fashion. And now you have The Mandalorian, so go watch that. So this is your man, Politik the King. This is my full gripe and my full, 5 points on how Disney disrespected the franchise. So I'm out. You guys take it easy. Please comment below. Let me know how you feel about any of these things, even if it's just about my beliefs or whatever. I think this is a respectable response to Star Wars and a respectable response to how they treated the franchise. And these are my gripes. So I'm out. This is your man, Politik the King. You guys take it easy. May God bless your gaming. King rules for the good of his people. I am out.